Welcome to Through Your Lens, where we explore inspiring individuals living life on their own terms. I'm your host, Tom Rawlins. Today, get ready for an episode that redefines adventure. I'm joined by Kate Pilcher, the incredible force behind Globetrotting. It's a travel agency devoted to horse riding holidays and unique cultural horse experiences the world over. Kate shares jaw-dropping tales, like dodging lions and crocodiles on horseback in Africa, with her 3 kids. We also uncover her unique path to marriage. And we tap into how Kate seems to possess an everlasting, abundant energy that keeps her saddling up for one epic journey after another. This is a conversation about living life to the fullest and backing yourself. Let's dive in. Kate.
Tom.
What has been one of the most difficult moments in your life that has turned out to be one of the best? And did you learn anything from it?
Wow. Gosh, you don't ease into these things, do you? Probably the most difficult thing in my life would have been when we were in Africa. I'm not good with dates, so no one fact checked me on anything. If my colleague Laura was here, she'd be able to fact check it. But I'm thinking 2023, we took the girls and Steve and a lot of guests on a ride called Out of Africa. And so we rode from Namibia, Kenya, Tanzania, and then Botswana and ended in South Africa. 3 children, that I think 10, 8 and 5. And I had many hats wearing. So obviously my hat as a mother, my hat as a globetrotting guide, and then also running a business at home. And I think fortunately, Steve says yes to all my harebrained ideas, but at the end of that trip, being away for 6 weeks, it really, really, really took its toll. So when I got home, I just had a full, creative meltdown. Couldn't really...
After the trip,
because we had, towards the end, there was a situation in our business at home. So we're in Botswana, and one of the rides that we'd launched in America called the Yellowstone Ride there was some issues with the ride partner. And so we were trying to manage that while being in real time in Africa with 10 guests and the girls. And we held it all together, and we were like a duck swimming on top of a pond, and we were just paddling madly underneath. But I think getting home, I just couldn't. It was the first time ever that I didn't want to be involved in my business, which my business is, or our business that has been created since I was 25, has been my true north, like my church for, a quarter of my life, where I just had to sort of step away from it. I just felt I was really sick of being needed, and I was being needed and pulled on so many different directions, and I felt like I put my happiness of my family on hold because I was just pushing myself too much, if that makes sense.
You said it was this trip, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm never taking my family away on a trip again.
Yeah.
Why'd you say that?
Because I was the worst version of myself. I had to be the best version of myself to the guests, and then my kids got the worst version of me because I had nothing left. And I don't want to be that person. It's just, so I do a lot of meditation and I do a lot of breath work and all of that. But when I was on that trip, we were just having to hold it together. The guests didn't see anything, and the guests see warts in all of our family. They love traveling with our family. Don't get me wrong. And they love what the kids bring to a ride, but it just I'd pushed that boundary too much. It was too long a trip. Now we know that maybe 2 weeks is the sweet spot, but anything longer than that. Also, obviously, the added danger of riding with game, the kids couldn't be out of our sight because they literally could get eaten by a lion. So it was just too much. Good news is, side note, they didn't get eaten by a lion. So
parents have worries, and yours is, I hope my child doesn't get eaten by a lion today.
And they didn't, which is great. They might have got a couple of parasites, but that was it.
So when you look back at that particular YouTube clip and you say, I never want to, like you said, record this because I never want to take my family on a trip again. I guess once the dust has settled, it's, well, maybe never again, but we would plan it out differently in maybe 2 weeks instead of a month or whatever it might be. Is that how you feel now?
100%. And also the girls couldn't ride in Africa because it's too dangerous. You can't ride with big game in Africa with a 12-year-old. They're extremely good riders, but if they were to be charged by an elephant or a predator, their brain is not developed enough that if they were to fall off, like that, there is no, it might be okay, you know. So now when we rode in December, we went to Argentina. So that is a place that's very close to my heart. I ran away there when I was 25, lived in Patagonia. We went back there in December to do a guided ride in Corrientes, which is this beautiful, beautiful water delta right up in the north. And that, on the flip side, was one of the most happiest moments of my life because I was riding alongside my 3 girls with all of our guests and my husband, and it was like, this is what lights me up. This is all those lessons and all the times I'm getting up early and taking the girls trail riding. It all results in that amazing pinnacle of being able to share what I love and then seeing the joy that it brings them, like that they just loved it, you know. So we've made I've made a oath to myself that there's smaller trips and that the girls can ride rather than having to be, you know, on the sideline. And that's good.
Often as a parent, you want your kids to do something that you love doing too. Like for me, it's surfing and my boy, we live near the beach luckily, and so we go surfing all the time, but he doesn't like water.
Oh, wow.
Well, he didn't like water.
Yeah,
it's changing.
wow.
And I was, you know, really careful. I didn't want to push him into the water, but he was still not liking it, and I was being real gentle. But I don't know, maybe there were parts of me still, really subtle ones that were like he could pick up on that energy that I did want him to surf, like surf.
Yeah.
And the more I back off, and now he's enjoying it.
Absolutely.
Do you see that with your girls and riding?
Yes. And
have you had to back away?
100%.
Yeah.
But I wanted my kids to ride more. Steve and I thought of it as a life skill. So a lot of kids on the coast learn to swim in the ocean. You know, you learn to ride a bike. For us, it's learning to ride a horse. And then to a certain age where you are safe, and then you can choose whether you go forward with that. So when I was teaching the girls to ride, not teaching them, but riding with them, I always tried to make it really fun and that there was no pressure. And even if they just, you know, got on the horse and that was it for the day, that's okay. And they've all had different thresholds. I think that I was concerned that they wouldn't like globetrotting. But fortunately they love it because you can't not love globetrotting. Like it's just, and the only thing is they're tainted for life now in terms of the travel that they've done and the countries that they've been to. It's going to be very hard to bump around in a Kentucky bus or something like that in Europe. They'll do it, I'm sure, but they're very, very fortunate, and I don't think they're very aware of it too. I used to say, you know, you need to be grateful, you get to see all, but now I just let them see how we react to the situation rather than sort of saying that they need to be grateful, because that never works.
So where did your love of horses come from?
My father was a racehorse trainer, so amateur racehorse trainer. So I lived out near Dalby, so it's like west of Toowoomba. It's not in the like bush, but he loved horses. His father loved horses, and so he had thoroughbreds, and I used to get plonked up there when I was very little, and there was just this sense of awe and rather than being scared. So that I've seen it with lots of kids. You'll either pop them up and they're just like, yes, or others they're scared, which is fine. They generally get through it. But for me, it was always just a real love and wonder for animals. And my father was an amazing horseman in a time where people were doing it very differently. There wasn't that soft sort of horsemanship, so to speak, but he always was very innate that they're sentient beings. And so I was taught I wasn't taught, I didn't have lessons or anything like that. And then I was sent to boarding school, so I didn't ride at all. And then I came back to horses sort of in my mid-20s in just a roundabout way that my father was starting to play polo up at Mullaney, and then I started playing up there. So it just sort of fell back into my life without knowing that I needed it. It just sort of came back into my life when I was more settled.
All right, a quick word from one of our sponsors and then we'll get right back to the show. Today's sponsor is, it's me, Tom from Raw Lens. At Raw Lens, we create impactful video and stills content that captivates your community. If you're a business, organization, or individual with a message to share, then let's chat. Book your free Creative Spark session today at rawlensmedia.com. Let's bring your vision to life. Okay, back to me in the show. And then somewhere in your mid-20s, referring back to your About Us page on your Globetrotting website, you did a trip to the Masai Mara, and it's the way you've written it is that was a really pivotal moment and critical moment.
Yeah.
What happened on that trip and
that was cool.
What were you doing?
And it's still so vibrant, those memories. And even like for every sense, I still can feel it. So my father had gone on a horse riding holiday the year before and had discovered there's a thing as a horse riding holiday because we didn't really know that there was such a thing. And then we were in business together for Salt Magazine, which was so beautiful to share a business with my father. And so we were asked to go over and do the Masai Mara migration, which is one of the biggest wildlife migrations in the world. So millions of wildebeest crawl like ants across the Mara at a certain time of year. And so my father and I went over to Kenya, and I'd never been to Africa. I'd never been to a developing country. So landing in Nairobi, it is like a beehive of activity, and my eyes were literally popping out of my brain. And we flew in on a little Cessna into the Masai Mara, and that's where we started the ride with 4 other people. And for those 10 days, so a safari in Swahili is called a journey. So you travel from A to B. And I was on a little chestnut mare called Witch, and we rode from point A to point B, and it just was everything about it. So the Maasai people, so when you're sitting around a campfire at night and you don't know, and it's very unrehearsed, under the hurricane lamps, the warriors will come in and dance, and, which people will see in the Nat Geo productions where they jump. The higher they jump, then they get the wife, and just like it was. And then seeing the game on horseback between the ears of a horse is just exhilarating and frightening, and just adrenaline punching. Like, I love adrenaline, and I think that also just played to it all. There was these amazing storms that rolled in. I got proposed to by a Maasai, which Dad thought was great. And
what'd you say?
I said no. He said, "What's your dowry?" But that was just everything about it, to the point that my whole life sort of at home felt a little bit planned, a little bit white picket, a little bit, which is a shame because Stephen was at home with a mortgage and our dog, which Stephen's now my husband, spoiler alert. But at that stage, it just felt like there was so much more to life. I had a magazine, everything on paper looked great. And then it also came at a time when my parents were getting divorced. So it just sort of flipped everything on its head. And so I sort of got home and felt like my life was upside down.
And do you remember the moment where you were like, I'm starting this, I'm going to do this? Or was it a slow burn?
It was, so I knew about this thing called horse riding holidays, and then so I got home and Stephen proposed and I said no, and then I ran away to South America. So that's like horse culture, it's where it's on steroids.
Whoa. How'd Steve take that?
I thought you knew this story, so I didn't want to
Well, I forgot about the proposed part.
Yeah.
I didn't realise you ran away from him to another continent.
So
you missed that
poor
detail.
Steve. So when I got home from Kenya, Mum and Dad split up, which was on the cards. Nothing, there was no adultery or anything like that. It was just they fell out of love, but it did rock my world. Poor Steve, prior to that trip, I was like, when are you going to propose? And looking at rings and, showing him designs. And then, so he's like, right. So we went on a ski trip and he dropped to one knee and said, will you marry me? And I just burst into tears and said, no, this is what I'm feeling. It's not you, but I just am all muddled up in my head. I want to run away. I want to be anonymous. I need time to just make sense of everything. And so typical Stephen, he's the most amazing human in the world, said, that's fine. Next time it's your turn to propose. Like, not in an egotistical way, just in a really knowing way, which is wild actually. And so he stayed at home doing his, mature age apprenticeship on like, I don't know, $5 an hour, doing the mortgage. Dad looked after the magazine. And I took a one-way ticket to Argentina and found myself in a very, very remote estancia on the Andes border, which is you had to ride 6 hours to get into this estancia. And I worked alongside the gauchos and worked with the horses there and fell asleep under the stars every night. And it was so cathartic and so transformational. And I just kept searching to be in the saddle. And then I went from there.
Wait. How long were you there for?
I was about 6 months there.
6 months?
Yeah.
Wow. So this is not just like I need a couple of weeks to...
No, it was like,
see you later, Steve. I need time.
Well, there was a point where I rode back into a tiny little town and rang him. They had those cyber cafes, and then I rang him and said, "Stop waiting for me." I felt so bad that he had to put his life on hold. Just wasn't fair on him. So we broke up, so to speak, and then I went back to Kenya and worked as a guide, a backup horse riding guide over there. And
were you during all of this, very solo travel?
Yeah.
I'm sure you're with people at different times, but were you happy? Were you unhappy? Were you sort of?
Yeah, good question.
Sort of. Was it stomach tight, so to speak, or were you just felt free?
I felt really free. I was writing a lot. I was photographing a lot. I was filming a lot. I was just figuring out. I'm always a very driven person, and I swim upstream when people swim downstream. So the kernel of an idea for Horse Riding Holiday Agency was sort of bubbling away. Sort of in the back of my mind, probably hadn't put words to it. So when I was speaking to people, riding with them, I was working out where they'd come from, what they enjoyed about it. So it was sort of there. And the more I travelled, the more at ease I felt. Like it is solo travel, and I hadn't done it. And so, I mean, what great gurus say, you have to be happy in your own skin first. And that was a real point where I did spend a lot of time by myself, which is now looking back, my life's filled with people. It was a really lovely time. So I went back to Kenya and worked as a guide there and learnt Swahili and loved Kenya, and met all these people from all over the world that would come and ride in Kenya. And so it was sort of like, a focus group right there, speaking to people what they loved about it. And I get a lot of energy from people. So it was, it really lit me up being around a dinner table at night and then riding in the morning and the just being outside. So I came home. Well, I got told to come home. Dad's like, stop,
After how long?
I was away for about 9 months in total. So 3 months in Kenya.
Yeah.
And because he was running the magazine and I had responsibilities and I had to face the music too.
During that 9 months, were you pretty off grid?
I was totally off grid.
Touch points to the magazine. Or
No. Which was so nice to have that, freedom. Very off grid in Argentina. In Kenya, there was some internet, but it wasn't something that I was really searching for. It was more just being in that moment.
Yeah. Mid-20s.
Mid-20s.
Finding yourself,
even
riding
though I had
horses.
25, yeah.
And
I call it the quarter life crisis. I encourage people to do it.
Your dad somehow got a hold of you and said, get back here. I want to retire.
Pretty much.
I want to back away.
Yeah.
And so Steve on the scene at this point.
Still paying the mortgage and looking after our beautiful dog.
You had a mortgage together.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Oh, wow.
I know. It was,
sort of broke up, but had this thing.
So that's the face the music bit, right? Like, Kate, you need to. So got home, and then Steve's like, let's just have dinner together. And I'm like, okay. And so it was, also in that travel, you realise that there was no one like Steve. Like, it was actually really good because we'd been together since he was at my 21st. I was like 19.
Right.
We'd always been able to, like, he's never clipped my wings in any way. And we'd traveled, like I'd been in Europe for 2 years without him, and he'd done all his own travel. So it was never one of those codependent relationships. But we ended up getting back together, obviously. And I led a guided ride back to Kenya with all my polo friends a year later. And I was literally having a shower. They have these like canvas showers. So, you can see the sky, and I'm having a shower. And then this bolt of lightning was like, you need to propose to Steve now. Like, I don't know why I thought that. And so I wrapped a towel around me, and then he was outside sitting on a camp chair, and I sat on his lap and said, I've got something to ask you. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, don't worry. And then changed the subject. He goes, no, you need to ask me that question. And I was like, will you marry me? And he's like, I really want to say no to you right now, Kate, but yes. So yeah, it was pretty cool because it was so wonderful for him to see the world that I'd seen and how he loved it. Like, so he can ride horses. He's ridden them when he was little out west. He doesn't, like, it wasn't something that he chooses to do, but now he rides when he globetrots. So it was just really beautiful to see him in the place where it sort of all started. So
were you a wild Brumby in a previous life?
I don't know. I feel like I'm a gypsy, but then I love home too. I'm a bit of a contradiction, actually. I may be a wild Brumby. I don't know. But we're very, very lucky that we found each other, which is cool.
Steve's a beautiful yin and yang in a lot of ways. He's very solid and down to earth.
Absolutely. Agree.
So you started Globetrotting. Mm-hmm. You've done all this and you sold Salt magazine. Yeah, so we worked along. So Salt and Globetrotting worked parallel for probably about, again, dates, but maybe 5 years. Were there a few Globetrotting ads in Salt?
Yeah, there was a lot. And a lot of Globetrotting stories in Salt magazine as well. It was great because Salt was a quarterly magazine, so the deadlines weren't fast and furious. So, and I still loved writing and photography, and it was a really successful magazine. It is still a beautiful magazine. I'm really proud of it. But there was a point when Dad always said that when you want to do Globetrotting more than Salt, then that would be the time to sell the magazine. And I remember having a conversation with Steve like on a Friday afternoon, and I'm like, I think I'm ready to sell the magazine. And literally the phone rang and this lady was interested in buying the magazine. We'd never had anyone ask to buy it prior to that. And so it was just the perfect timing because with Globetrotting I have to road test ride. So every time I'd put a magazine to bed, then I'd go and road test a ride to make sure I could then put it in our portfolio. But with a young family, it just was sort of it was getting harder to manage. So we ended up, selling the magazine. And then the more time I was putting into the Globetrotting, the more demand it was, getting, which is cool.
Have you had kids at this point?
Yes. So the girls were in the magazine a lot too, in like background photos. But
right.
So I think I sold the magazine. Yeah, Birdie, my middle daughter, is 10, so maybe around that time.
What's it like running a business? And that's, I guess, what's the word? Hands-on, saddle-on is your sort of business with 3 girls. Yeah. A lot of travel. Yeah. A lot of, not your average sort of.
No, it's not, which is nice.
Would you say, I mean, I can see your life is an adventure.
Yeah.
What's that like from a family point of view?
We have a SWAT team of people around us. So now there's a lot more ease to it. I'm a big sook. I don't like travelling without my family for a long period. So 10 days would be max for me.
Has that changed then? Do you feel like your way of travelling has changes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think when the girls were a bit little, well, as I say, bigger the kid, the bigger the problem. I think when the girls were a little bit littler, and Steve and I had more support family-wise, it was easier. But now that they're bigger, it's a little bit tricky logistically. But yeah, I don't like to go away any longer than 10 days by myself. Also just the knock-on for Steve, like looking after 3 kids at home is a lot. And then we like to do a trip, all of us together, but not 6 weeks in Africa, like that long. That sounds really like that I'm taking that for granted. It's not. It was just that it was just too much on a young family. But now we do, 3 or 4 weeks, 3 weeks. maybe 20 days.
And for those listening or
Yeah.
watching, go to the Globetrotting YouTube channel and watch the Out of Africa series, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And you'll get an idea of how rugged, how challenging that trip is by yourself, let alone with a family.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
No, I think I totally get that. Back to challenging moments with family on ride. Finn had a bit of a stack on a horse. What happened there?
So we also traveled just as a family, like without globetrotting. So we went down to South Australia, a very famous route called the Kidman Trail. And we were so Birdie and Finn were riding, Pops was too little and Steve was support. So we would ride 40 to 30 Ks a day. On the second last day, Finn's horse bolted, which for non-horse people means that it's just blind bolting without any control, and she fell off and got thrown into the ground, but near a fence. She didn't actually hit the fence, but the pressure, and all my kids are very loud and like noisy, but she actually didn't make a sound because parents say, how did you know the fall was so bad? She didn't make a sound, and there was just this one sort of, blood stream coming out her nose. And she wouldn't move. It was, terrifying. I think it was in COVID time. Anyway, we knew we could pick her up and we took her to a local hospital, which then went to the Royal Children's, and she had lacerated her spleen. So she'd zippered it in, it was a grade 3 laceration. And with kids, they try and really keep spleens. So that had a massive impact on her confidence and of riding, obviously, and getting back in the saddle and all of that. And her, journey, that was really hard for me because this kid was cantering and doing everything, and then the accident. And then if the horse went over a trot, she would like get off the horse and want to walk. Like she was just not, I didn't know if she'd actually ever ride again.
In the moment, she's on the ground, blood out of her nose. What are you and Steve both there?
Yeah.
How do
Steve
you
was
react?
droning it, not droning it, but droning the scene. I think the drone stayed up in the air for ages when we didn't know how bad it was. It was actually when, I'm in my riding clothes. I'd been riding all day and I'm sitting in ED. I have a little 11-year-old or 10-year-old in hospital, and then the specialist has gotten the ultrasound and he's not focusing on me, and and Stephen wasn't there because of COVID. He was in the car park, and the specialist wrote on the the ultrasound machine like something that I could understand, like lacerated spleen, and I said, can you tell me, because I thought she was okay. I knew she had blood in her urine, so I thought she had maybe bruised kidney. And he said, don't talk to me, I need to focus here. And then my brain just from there went just completely spinning out of control. And you're trying to hold space for your daughter because you have to be the strong one. And I sort of, that was the hardest moment for me because I put her there. I was the one that I put them on horses. Like every time I see them fall off, it always feels like it's on my shoulders. I've always said maybe we should just play chess, or maybe it's a big risk and it's a big payoff, but there's big risks involved too. And I just felt like that I'd made all the wrong choices for my children. And I've had many moments where I'm on my knees going, is this a selfish choice? Am I doing this for me, or am I doing it for my family? And that was like that moment in Africa. Am I doing it, am I putting my family first here, or am I putting myself and everyone's just following along? And there's always that moment that I have all the time.
And how was Finn? How'd she go in the weeks and months after that?
I remember sitting in the hospital bed crying, saying, babe, I'm so sorry. And she's like, Mum, but I had the best day that day and I would never have changed it. And, these kids are so resilient and they have so much more strength than you ever could imagine. There was a moment actually when we were on another trail in Brisbane and we had our horses in this sort of taped electrical area. So it's taped with electric current running through it. Anyway, Steve and I woke up in the middle of the night and just heard this snap. And we looked out and we could see our 3 horses galloping. They had rugs on, so the torch shone and you could see the high vis on their rugs reflecting back. And the gooseneck was attached to the car, and I had Poppy was, I don't know, 18 months. And then these horses have just gone. And so we woke up the kids, and this man came in a car and said, your horses, because it was on a highway, and we wouldn't have known which way they would have gone. And there was on a highway, and he said they went right down the highway. So got the girls in the ute. I'm on the back of the ute on a highway. We're seeing our 3 horses galloping ahead of us, and blind, just galloping. You couldn't stop them. I had hay, and there was a point where I nearly was going to jump on one, and it was 80. I don't know how fast they go, but fast, and it was all. It was a 2-way highway, but it was guarded, guardrails, so the horses couldn't jump off. And so we were just driving behind them. They wouldn't have been able to stop because the car just made them go faster. Anyway, Steve managed to get in front of them, and then we caught them. And Steve had to go back and get the gooseneck, and I'm standing there with these 3 horses with Finn, again, very young, in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, and, she's calming me down. It's just wild how sometimes those roles slip, they flip from being the mother to her giving you strength, and it was just, I just imagined in a crisis how well she handled herself. So I guess what I'm saying is all of these situations add up to they're such curious and brave and gritty kids. So then I do make peace with myself that I am doing the right thing by taking them on these adventures, and I can't bubble wrap them all the time. But I definitely seesaw between that every day in terms of, if we are doing the right thing.
All right, a quick word from one of our sponsors, and then we'll get right back to the show. Today's sponsor is, it's me, Tom from Raw Lens. At Raw Lens, we create impactful video and stills content that captivates your community. If you're a business, organization, or individual with a message to share, then let's chat. Book your free Creative Spark session today at rawlensmedia.com. Let's bring your vision to life. Okay, back to me in the show.
And sometimes you don't know how you perform or react until you're close to breaking point.
Yeah.
And I guess more exposure to that builds resilience and builds that strength.
And after that experience, once the horses were safe and the girls are in bed, the other thing is Steve and I in a crisis are so phenomenal. We're like clockwork, and we've been in a couple of crises, well, quite a few. And it's amazing how we just go like that. We really just work together as a team, which is so cool. I just couldn't do life without that man, which is so, amazing. I used to, as a little kid, every birthday cake would wish with the candles you blow out, your birthday wish is to fall in love. I don't know why. I just always had that wish. And, to be able, not many people get that experience to be able to have that, partnership. We're very, very lucky.
And your kids are really, really lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, I really agree.
Are you proud of your family, the unit?
It's hard. I don't like sugarcoating things. I don't like how people think that it's hard, but I wouldn't change it for the world, absolutely. And I feel that we're doing the best we can with the knowledge that we have. That's all we can do. And as long as they grow up being kind and curious, then, I think we'll be okay. I think.
Speaking of people, qualities, you've spent a lot of time around people in these locations, these exotic locations on horseback all around the world. And something I learnt from you, I guess on the surface of globetrotting, you see just beautiful locations, you see beautiful horses, and you go, wow, that looks fantastic. But underneath the surface is the connections made through people, and everyone's going through different stories and journeys.
Yeah.
What have you seen on your trips, and what is the thing that I guess people wouldn't know about globetrotting and what that can happen on your trips?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it is an alchemy. And when you build a business, you you can't create a community. It's just felt. And I feel like attracts like, from my team to all of the people that love globetrotting of all different walks of life. So I have friends all around the world of every different generation, colour, creed, culture, and it just cuts through to when you're on a horse riding shoulder to shoulder, you have that commonality, and it is absolutely magic. Like, I can't tell you, it is the people that just drives me to keep finding amazing riding locations, because they just, yeah, it is amazing. And I think horses attract beautiful people, because horses are very healing and very spiritual, and I'm super spiritual, and I think that is just why globetrotting has the most amazing globetrotters, because they are innately connected to horses. And then going to see a new country, you get to travel with soul to the earth people that have lived and breathed that country. So the guides, which I love, 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 love. Like the girls learning to work cattle alongside gauchos in Argentina, not sharing a word of Spanish, but having that beautiful unspoken language is so spectacular, you know. So I just think that is a hidden added bonus. A lot of our globetrotters will come as solo globetrotters, so they don't know anyone. And then and they worry, which I get, like it's really daunting. But as soon as they get there, they're like, they breathe out and just go, everyone is here is solo, you know, and everyone uplifts each other. And it's by the end of it, literally by the end of it, you are best friends with these amazing human beings that were strangers at the start of the week, because you have that immersive experience where you're riding, you're, you know, breaking bread together of an evening, and it's nothing short of miraculous, to be fair. And we have the most amazing community. It's wild.
What's it like around the campfire at the end of a ride?
Yeah, it's fun. It just depends on the group. Obviously, you have different dynamics in a group, but you know, again, we're not in our everyday life. No one gets to sit around a campfire and look up at us at the stars, and I feel like we should all be doing that more often. So, people are in holiday mode, so that's always cool. So their alter egos are probably you know, there's holiday Kate, and then there's work Kate, and then there's mum Kate. Holiday Kate, like, you know, I'll eat extra chocolate, drink extra alcohol, and stay up late, and I think everyone is the same. So it's awesome. And when we were in Mexico the other day, again with the girls and our guests, it was so nice that all our kids like sat alongside the guests in a long table, so you have to have table manners, and hold conversations with people from all around the world. It was just so cool. That's a skill that everyone needs, you know. So, yeah, I just love it. It's amazing.
Incredible. And do your girls they're all different personalities, obviously, but do us more extroverted, some more inward? How do they cope with being with adults, and do they enjoy home time? You know, where do they sit with this crazy lifestyle? Which, I mean, let's be honest, as a kid, sometimes you don't appreciate because you don't know any better. Yeah. But later on, I know that they will see back and go, wow, what an incredible childhood we had. Yeah,
that's right.
How do they cope with it in the now?
They get homesick, and then when they get home, all they want to do is go, which is exactly like me. So they're fickle little human beings. I feel also they're on, so they have, like me or Steve, when we're around the guests, we're still on. So that, you know, if they're fighting, there's a lot of gritted teeth going, girls, you know, because you're paying to be on a holiday. You don't want to be with kids that are fighting over a knife or a fork or something like that. But
or with a knife and a fork.
Or with a knife and a fork. Exactly, that happens too. But again, the guests always know if the girls come, which is really important. But the guests love it, and we're always thinking, oh, my God, the girls are being so naughty. And then the guests will come up and say, your family is amazing. And you're like, wow. Like you're judging yourself the worst. But it will be interesting when they're older whether they will, like Finn going into teenage years, she may not want to go away. She may want to hang out with her girlfriends, and that's okay. Like that's going to be okay. So we'll just have to watch this space.
You've said that you'll be riding until you're with your Zimmer frame. How do you feel about aging and getting older?
Man. That's a really good question.
I mean, you're very young right now.
Well,
but years down the track, you know.
43. But, well, good question. So my mum has dementia. So she has prefrontal dementia, and she was globetrotting with me for a long time, and she got diagnosed very early. So she was 63, and she's now 72. And it is always very hard to, when you get that brain fog and you're finding that you're not like as sharp. My sister and I always worry about, you know, what may be ahead of us. But at the moment, again, because of my spirituality, we very try to live in the now and just, you know, keep my mind sharp with all my breath work and meditation. And then physically, we live a very physical life. So I love all the wrinkles on my face because it's a life well lived. Like it's a privilege to be able to grow old. And at this stage, yeah, bring it on. I mean, Steve and I will be able to retire. We'll be able to, I don't know. Like, I'm okay with that. I can't wait to be a grandma, which sounds so stupid because my kids aren't even, but all of that stuff. I'm actually also, I think a lot of women will relate to this. You really start to find your own power in your 40s. Like, it's very lovely to just not give a damn and be able to say no all the time, which I really love, and being really direct. Kind, but direct. I love that too.
You said it a couple of times.
Yeah.
And it's not something I've picked up on.
Yeah.
Because you're so full of, this sounds weird. You're so full of life.
Yeah.
And you said the word spiritual. And often I think about people who are in yoga and doing it. But, you know, it's not immediately recognizable to me that you would say you're spiritual and you meditate.
Yeah.
What does it look like, and what do you mean by, you know, I am spiritual? What do you mean by that?
Well, it's very woo-woo. I mean, I was doing Ouija boards and seances with my grandmother and mother when I was like 10, but I just believe in a higher purpose. I call it, you know, universe or Gaia or whatever, but it's a big part of my life. So I meditated when I was younger. I had lots of miscarriages between Birdie and Poppy, and that was a very hard time for me. And that's where I really ramped up my spirituality and started doing more breath work and meditation. And that has just helped me calm my mind for me to be able to live this life that we've chosen. It's just my bookmark for each day. I do breath work and I'm in nature or meditating, and it's just, I believe in a higher purpose. Like? Breath work is breathing, it sounds weird, but breathing in and out of your mouth, and you just have to look it up. I don't know, but it's a heightened way of meditating. I recommend it to everyone.
But there's lots of different forms of breath.
Exactly.
You're saying
yeah, exactly. But really quick for 30 minutes. Like I did it this morning with one of my breathwork coaches, and we actually do breathwork rides just because I'm into it. So we've got a facilitator that meets us in different locations, and then we bookmark a day. We breathe in the morning, we breathe in the afternoon, and then ride. So you're like, I don't know, it just heightens, it gives you clarity, it gives you creativity, the noise just, you know, seeps to the bottom, and it's just exceptional. And I'm sure there'll be lots of research eventually come out about the health benefits as well. But that's what my take on spirituality, meditation and breath work sort of looks like. I didn't really explain it very well, but that's what it,
No, I'm fascinated. So I do a similar for myself. But what in the morning do you said in nature, do you actually go on top of a hill?
Yeah.
Sunrise?
You've been to our hill. So Tin Kettle, we live, and it's a treeless, beautiful hill that overlooks the ocean, and my horses are there. And I have to have coffee first because I am not a guru or a Buddha. I do love caffeine. And then I walk. I just walk in nature while the house sleeps. And
what time are we talking?
Like 4:35. Yeah. And then, you know, go into my day from there. So that's really important. I mean, gratitude, all of that stuff. I mean, it's not, people know it. So it's not some, you know, woohoo butte sort of formula that I have, but it's just the way it works for me. Because of the life that we have. It's busy. So you need to have some, you know, points where you can be like that.
Do you have times when you just like, I've had enough? like
Yeah.
business and everything, family.
Yeah.
You're just like, I want to tap out now.
Mm-hmm. Many times. My nervous system, I feel aging, gets fried a lot quicker now. I also, because I do get energy from people, but I also have to then have those moments where I just, not be around anyone and the phone gets turned off. So, yeah, I do have moments like that time that some moments where you're just always needed by all your children and, people. I sometimes wish about not wanting to be needed, but then I don't think I could function without purpose in my life. So it's just always, isn't it? Like you're always jiggling and juggling that sort of fine balance between, purpose and time. And then sometimes I'm getting it right that week and then sometimes I'm not. Notoriously late for pickups for school when Steve is never late. You know what I mean? Like I just have time blindness, but that's okay. I have to forgive myself sometimes, right?
Where do you
Yeah.
find most peace?
I find most peace is, riding my horse in nature. It doesn't have to be my horse in like I'm a pioneer at heart. Like I don't know, I must have been in a past life, but riding a horse in new landscapes, in new culture, or it buzzes me, but it also gives me peace. Like it just is exactly where I have to be. Like it just, I get tingles even talking about it because that's my happy spot. That's my church. That's my peace. That's everything. I'll be doing it, Tom, in my Zimmer frame. Like literally I will be doing it until I can't any longer. And thankfully at the moment I can. So.
Hey, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story and
Thank
your
you.
amazing parenting,
Yeah,
unique and wonderful.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming in.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching the show. This podcast is truly a passion project for me and the small but awesome team behind the scenes. We pour our hearts into bringing you these honest and insightful conversations, but I can't tell you how much it helps when you hit that follow or subscribe button. The show gets bigger, which means we can expand the production and we can continue to bring in amazing guests from all walks of life. Please help us to do this thing that we love and hit that follow or subscribe button. We appreciate you being here. Thank you.